Hi and welcome to this edition of Tigunia TipTok. Today we're going to be talking about assigning dimension values to accounts and setting default dimensions on items and customers or vendors to basically drive specific entries to specific accounts and how we can require those dimension values for specific accounts. We'll talk about other dimension setup and advanced issues in other videos, but for this one we're mainly going to focus on setting dimension values so that you can force the posting to the GL. Just as a really quick reminder, when we're talking about dimensions, dimensions are basically tags that will be assigned to transactions to allow you to segregate those transactions or report on those transactions through analysis reports, account schedules, other reporting that you may want to do. The biggest area the dimensions are used is in income statement accounts, specifically sales and cost of goods sold accounts. And what you can do is basically assign specific accounts so that you can do sales and other income reporting based on those dimensions. So if you wanted to do sales by customer group or sales by item group, sales by region, or other salaries by department and other breakouts of those income statement accounts, or basically any of your accounts, you can do that through the use of dimensions. So on the screen right now, you'll see the dimension lists, or the dimensions that I have set up for my test company here. I have customer group, department, item group, and region. Customer group and region are basically assigned at the customer level. Item group and department are assigned for me at the item level, and we'll talk about those assignments. Each of these has specific values. We're not going to go into further setting up those, but we will talk about how to assign them as defaults to your various customers and items. So we're going to go over and take a look at customers. For example, we'll take a look at customer 40,000. That's the one we're going to be working out here, and we'll come over here to related, customer, and then dimensions and dimension singles. But in dimension single is you can see where we basically set up the default dimensions for that customer. This customer is in the large customer group and also located in the West region. We'll see how those dimension values will flow over to the sales transactions when we do that. If we come over to the items, we'll find similar transactions as we go to a couple of the items. We'll take a look at this one, and we'll go to actions, item, and dimensions on dimension single also here. And you can see where we've got department, sales, and item group as furniture for this specific item. When we enter sales orders or sales invoices, the dimensions from both the customer and the item will go together on the item line to be able to tag the transaction that's going to be posted, and we'll take a look at that. Now, that's only half the setup. The other part of the setup is basically requiring at the account level that dimensions are being used. I mean, if you want to report on sales by customer group or sales by region, you also want to make sure that all of the transactions that hit the sales account have a region or a customer dimension, customer group dimension assigned to them. And so you want to basically require that. So we're going to go over to our chart of accounts. We're going to take a look at the sales account. In this case, it's 40200. So if we take a look at that and we go to then related, related account dimensions and dimension single. You can see in here where we have set up for the dimensions that are used in that account, and we have certain value posting set up here that we'll talk about. So in this case, I want in my sales account 40200, I want to require all four dimensions be used with that account, which means any transaction that posts to 40200 has to have those dimensions. The way that's done is through this value posting. I can set up the dimension codes here, but unless I set a code mandatory or a same code value posting for each of the dimensions, then the system's not going to require it, and if one of those is missing, then the transaction will go ahead and post without that missing transaction. But with these settings, then any transaction that posts there will be required. Code mandatory basically means that there must be a customer group, in this case a customer group dimension on the transaction. Doesn't matter what it is, it just has to be there. That's what the code mandatory is. Same code means there has to be a dimension value, and that dimension value must be the one that's specified in the dimension value code. Now you can put value codes in the code mandatory ones that will kind of be default, but they're not required to be that value. and you can have any value in there. But with the same code, you'll see that once we got some items set up, that there has to be a transaction that has sales as the department code. And we'll see that when we take a look at some of the sales transactions that we're going to post. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to our sales invoice where we can kind of see this in action. So we'll open up sales invoices and we'll create a new one. We're going to use our customer 40,000. And we're going to set up for item 1920-S. And I only want one of those to be able to sell. Now, as I take a look at that line, and I go to that line, and I go to related information and then dimensions, you'll see that dimensions have already been brought into that line. The customer group and the region came in from the customer that was selected. The department and the item came in from the item code. So those defaults were set and they came into the transaction. All right, so with those set, I can go ahead and post my transaction. And you'll see that everything posts just fine and it posts off to the GL just fine because all of the dimensions were there. Now I want to set up a new transaction and show you what will happen if one is missing. So in this case, I'm going to still use my same company, but in this case, I'm going to use another item. And this item does not have the sales dimension. So as I take a look at that, as I come over to line, related information, and dimensions, you'll see that I'm missing the department dimension because I neglected or forgot to assign a department dimension on item 1928-S. So you can see because of that and because of that missing dimension, if I try and post that transaction now, you can see the system will error out and it'll tell me that I need to select a dimension value for sales code for sales for the dimension code department. So it's telling me that I'm missing a department level dimension. So that's okay. You can see how that's missing. And so we'll go ahead and exit out of there. Yeah, we want to exit because we don't want to do anything with that one. Now let's set up a new one. And in this one, I'm going to set up a different item which has a different department on it. So I'm going to still use my same item, but in this case, I'm going to use item 1964-S. Now you can see with 1964-S, if I go to line, item, related items, and then dimensions, you'll see that I've got all of my dimensions, but in the department, I've got admin set as the dimension value. Now you'll recall that when we assigned the requirement for the sales account, I was using same code and sales to require basically any transaction going into the sales account has to have the sales department associated with it. This one doesn't. So now if I go ahead and try and post this transaction, you'll see that as I post it, I'll get another error message basically telling me that I've got a problem with the department code where sales is the required department. And so it's going to error out on you, basically forcing you to make sure those dimensions are correct. This is a great way then to be able to force certain dimension usage for certain accounts so that you can report on it properly on the back end as you need to. So hopefully this video will help you keep your dimensions and at least your chart of account structure in place so that you have the required dimensions that you need. Go ahead and subscribe to our channel if you want to look at other videos that we publish. And if you have any questions about this or any other related topics, go ahead and reach out to us here at Tigunia and we'll be happy to help you with anything you need. Have a good day.